What's going on, everybody? It's your boy C-Zar, and we are talking about Bitcoin today. It is the 9th day of November, and here we are sitting at just below $103,000. We've got 10 hours, 30 minutes left in this day, in this week as well. This is actually one of the more bearish weeks that we've seen really throughout the year of 2025. There's only been a couple that are larger than this. I mean, we're down 7.7% this week. I think the only one that actually was larger than this week from an open to close down was this crash here on March 3rd. That's crazy. Yeah, this is the second biggest red week from open to close that we've seen, at least at this point. We have 10 hours and 30 minutes left in the day in this week. Let's see how it goes. But hit that like button, you guys. Subscribe if you want to see more content like this. Let's get into it, okay? I very much do believe that we are at a low point for Bitcoin. I don't believe that we'll go lower, or if we do go lower, it won't be too much lower. I very much doubt that if we were to go lower, we'd go below $95,000. But here we are. 10 hours, 24 minutes left. Let's get into it. 1 hour time frame here, zooming way the hell in. We are getting some volume. Sundays, I've noticed that Saturdays lately, I mean, let's just go back here, right? Like look, there's no volume here at all. And then when do we get the spike? It's on Sunday. Sunday brings back volume. People start to come back on Sunday. So here we are getting that Sunday pump that we're accustomed to. I think a lot of people assume that Sunday pump means Monday dump, but not always. Not always. You know, statistically speaking, it's more probable to have a dump on Monday if we do have a pump on Sunday, just from what we've seen in the past. But we could very well continue to pump. You know, we very well could. Looking at the 1 hour time frame here. Excuse me. I've got a bit of an intense cough right now. Looking at the 1 hour RSI, things look very productive yet volatile, right? Getting overbought, getting oversold, oversold, overbought, just kind of like going between these areas that expresses volatility. You do have a bit of a neutral stance, but overall productive with these higher lows and higher highs, more or less in like a channel upwards. So I do think you look productive here and that you will continue to grow based off of that going into the end of the day. Looking at the stochastics, same thing, looks good there. The MACD is about to cross above the zero, which also should promote growth. And again, we got like 10 hours left in the day. I could see us growing into the end of the day, right? That would make a lot of sense. Now, how high do we go? Are we going to be at 104K? Are we going to be at 107K or higher? I don't know. But I do think that we'd move up higher from here. I would like it. I would actually like it if we did close this week somewhere around where we are now. I would like it if this week, over the next 10 hours, 23 minutes, if Bitcoin did not close too far from where it is here. Like you could go up $1,000 or $2,000, but I don't want to see us. I don't want to see us break out of this range here. And the reason why is because if we close the week here, we're actually very, very near the same areas on this weekly RSI that we were before, and we don't need to be. You know, this RSI, we could have found support at the 50, and boom, that was it. There's no need to find support here. I just think it would be another thing to check off on the bullish checklist of things that validate that we are at a low point, right? Is that we're finding support at the same areas that we found support really throughout this whole entire cycle on the weekly RSI, right there at the 42. Regardless of all these areas, the 40 is a very significant level in itself. So bouncing off of this area, which we will only get if we close the week here, right? Because if we pull up, imagine that by the end of this week, 10 hours, 22 minutes left in the week, imagine that we pull up to $109,000 or $110,000. If we do that, then we're really bouncing from right here, right? Because that's where last week was. Last week was right here. We'd really be bouncing from the 50 instead of down here. So again, I do want a recovery. It's just if we could hold off on the Sunday pump, I think it would look better on the charts. It would be better structured for longer term signals that do suggest that we're going to see a massive, massive recovery. Because again, every single time on a weekly basis that we've been here, that's what we've seen. And I actually want to show you that now real quick. Let's do that, right? From here, let's do the second interaction here when you started to recover, right? And then just where we are now, right here. We're at that same level as all of these. You know, there, boom, massive reaction. Boom, massive reaction weeks after, right? Literally the next week you started moving up here. And then it was about a month later that you really started picking up the pace. Here immediately after you started moving up. So again, it would just, I think it would look nice. The incentive there would be very promising. Anyways, getting back to the 1 hour time frame, definitely some things to get excited about here for the short term. Would make me think that we move higher. It's just how much higher do we go? That remains to be seen. we'll probably get a better gauge of that as we zoom out here. Looking at the 4-hour time frame, now this is promising because we do have higher lows and we do have higher highs. This does look nice. You're finding support at the 40. I wouldn't expect that we go too much higher, right? We'll probably consolidate within this range and work our way up there. It'll be sometime next week, maybe like Tuesday or Wednesday, that we're up in this overbought zone. That'd be my thoughts. In other words, I just don't think that we're going to go right now up to the overbought zone from here. And a move like that is what we'd probably need to see if we were going to break out of this range overall. So we probably do move to the top side of this range, and I would expect then that we do find some turbulence. So where we're going to go, we're at 102.7K now. We should find resistance, I think, somewhere between 104.5 to 103.3 thousand dollars. So a little bit higher than where we are now. I wouldn't be surprised if we did get above this high. Hell, we could even get above that high, and then perhaps there we find resistance. We consolidate back down, and then you get this higher low kind of trend here, and then we break out going into Monday, Tuesday. That would be nice. That'd be really nice, because if we're here, if we're still at like 104.5, 103K, yeah, it's a little bit higher than we are now. It won't be as close on the weekly RSI to where it is now, but it's still close enough. I think that would be okay. I think we can work with that. Looking at the 4-hour time frame here, stochastics would agree that we are moving higher, right? Bouncing off the 50. That's a good look there. The MACD. I mean, the MACD overall is bearish, but you're building some bullish momentum here. If we're continuing at this trajectory, more or less, right, something like this, then that would be Monday, Tuesday that we cross here. And typically whenever you cross on the 4-hour, you do expect some consolidation. So what, Monday, Tuesday we break out, and then we consolidate, and then we rally, something like that maybe. Mark my words, you guys. We're going to figure this out in probably like a day or two. But once the MACD oscillators cross above the 0, just like it did here, we're going to see consolidation for like a day to 3 days. Right here, you broke through the 0. It was spectacular, but then you consolidated really. I mean, if we just include all of this, you really consolidated for about 2 days and 20 hours, almost 3 days there, and then you started to move up. This was just some wonky price in the middle, right? But really you were consolidating for about 3 days. It's very common, for whatever reason, we've noticed this. On the 4-hour MACD, when you cross above the 0, we get these consolidation phases. It just happens. Sometimes there's volatility, oftentimes it's very minor volatility, but I do think we're going to break out of this. Looking at this pattern overall, I think we are going to break out to the upside. That's good. That's a good look there. Let's look and see what the fear and greed index is telling us right now. 24, still pretty low. I would bet with today's bullish close that we probably get rid of these levels of fear, or we're probably going to build back to neutral at least. Maybe not after today, but we're just building back toward that direction. Looking at the daily time frame here, very convinced that we're going to find support here, and that's good, you guys, because again, from here, connecting the dots down, what we have is a megaphone pattern. And this has been the primary reason why I haven't been freaking out at all. Now, don't get me wrong. When we thought we had the partial decline back here and we reverted back down, this was not a good look. And the thing that we asked for was a slight move down and then a rapid recovery up. We haven't really had the rapid recovery yet, but we have had the slight move down. Right? We didn't go all the way to this trend line, and that's the best that we could hope for, is that we didn't hit this trend line, because what this is called is a partial decline, where you reach for the trend line but you can't quite get there within a megaphone pattern. To my knowledge, I think this works for any pattern, but specifically for megaphones is how this is designed, the partial decline, where you reach for the trend line, you don't get there, and that typically signals a bullish reversal and an inevitable break to the upside. If and when we do break to the upside, you take the high to the low of the pattern, put it at the breakout point, wherever that might be. Let's imagine that we break out on the 14th of November. I doubt that we do, but let's imagine that we do. That target takes us to 163K. This drop, this little added momentum to the downside, actually made this measure move bigger. Where we were expecting 150K, 155K, now we're expecting 160 plus, closer to 165K from a high to a low. If we take a high to a low there, that takes us just above our 201.886 level. So a stop here would not be likely. Typically, you'd either stop here or you'd progress to this level here, to the 2272, and you'd probably stop just above there. So really, a move to 163, 164K is really a call, I think, for 172K. This is just a measure move, right? This is just the measurement. This is how you do the patterns, right? How you measure the breakout or the intended target area. It's a measure move. So it's not a prophecy. It's not a requirement. It's just an idea. You can stop below the measure move. You can exceed your measure moves. And I personally think that we exceed the measure move. I do think that this next move here will take us potentially by the end of this month to 180 to 190K. But I'm thinking more by the end of the month we'll be at 150, 160, and then build to 180, 190 in December. But we'll see. We'll see. Maybe higher. If anything, maybe I'm not bullish enough, but I do think that we have a very bullishly implied pattern here with this megaphone pattern, right? Very, very bullish implications there. And we know, we're validated that this pattern will break out to the upside. It's really time to celebrate. There's no ands, ifs, or buts about it when we get above this high here. I don't care if we're closing a day above there or we're wicking above there, whatever it is. We get above this line here at $116.4 thousand. We get above there, and the bears, if there are any bears left at that point, you are coping hard, because at that point it's undeniable, it's irrefutable that we're not just going to new all-time highs. We're going to 160 plus, right? That's what we're doing. Anyways, looking at the daily RSI, bouncing off the same areas that we typically bounce from all year, literally dating back to March. We just keep bouncing off this area, so I think that'll prevail as well. Stochastics looking good. They're actually looking good here, right? Coming up, bouncing off the oversold zone. We want to see that. That's good. Just keep prevailing to the upside. A little bit of volatility here, shaking things up, and that's okay. We do have bullish divergence on the MACD with the low in this histogram and the higher low here. You've got higher lows in your histogram, lower lows in the price. We have not seen that move of bullish divergence exact itself yet. Can we move lower? Can we see the price come down and get another drive of bearish momentum, right? Can we push the price down and do that? Yes, we can. But if we do, I think it's important to remember that we don't want to break out of this megaphone pattern. Where was it? Right there. So we don't want to go below, I guess, $96,000, really. I thought it was 95, but it's $96,000. Anyways, I got nothing else for you guys, and we don't want to wick below there. We don't want to close below there. We don't want to do anything around there, right? We want to avoid 96K like the plague. It's okay to go a little lower than these lows. It's okay to fake out, but it's not okay to go to 96K. In fact, I would say if by the end of the day I'm wrong and we don't pump up today, we're not at like 103.3 to 104.5K. If we're not there by the end of the day, or higher, I would love it if we were actually at a lower low and we close the week down here. That'd be great. Still get the partial decline, and then we're in really awesome territory for a bounce here based off the weekly RSI and the stochastics, right? Every single time. Let's actually look at this on the weekly time frame real quick, because everybody's bearish right now, right? Or at least the majority of the market is. If we're looking at this on the RSI, we already know that every single one of these lows came in line directly with these low points here in the RSI. But if we look at the stochastics they'd been oversold at this same area. They were oversold here in the at the very low point. Of course, they're going to be oversold at the low points, but here on the weekly time frame, the only times that we've been toward these oversold zones at all were when we're at the low points here, right? And we've been crossed now on the MACD for quite some time. I think that it's time to recover, you guys. I really do. We'll see you at $180,000 to $200,000 by the end of this year. 102.8K now. I got nothing else. Hit the like button, subscribe, and take care of yourselves. Thank you all. Bye-bye.